Hello, it is Monday, and I just got home from work a little bit ago and thought that I would vlog for a little bit. I haven't done a whole lot of reading since I last updated you. I told you that I was going to be starting A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I am currently on page 47, just at the start of chapter 6, and it's a little slow for me, honestly, at this point. I'm assuming and hoping that it picks up, but there are some interesting things going on with this. First of all, the description talks about how Feyre, who's our main character, is captured by a fairy and taken back to like the land of the Fae, which I'm not sure how to pronounce, so I'm sorry for any of you who are huge fans of this series. Prythian? I'm not sure. But she gets captured by him, and it's implied that there's like this love, or at least like steamy something between them. And we will eventually find out that his name is Tamlin. And they've met. He came to her cottage where she and her family live. He's upset because she apparently killed a friend of his who was in the shape of a wolf when she killed him. And so now, as payment, Feyre has to leave the mortal lands and travel with this fairy to his home where she will live out the rest of her life. And first of all, when I read that, I was like, oh, it's gonna be kind of sad for her to have to like leave her family and live out her days with these fairies that are perceived as like really horrible and cruel. But like her family kind of sucks. Like she doesn't have a mom. Her mom died. She has a dad who has like a leg injury and he doesn't really do anything to like help them make money. Her sisters do absolutely nothing to help her make money or like hunt or like do anything to help them survive. And like it's not a good situation. They are very poor. It's in the middle of winter. A huge like part at the beginning talks about how like they're basically starving. And she made this promise to her mom that she would take care of the rest of the family, and she's like the youngest sister, and the rest of the family does absolutely nothing to help. And honestly, like as she's traveling to this place with this fairy guy, she's thinking like, you know, screw my family, watch them try to survive without me. And honestly, I don't blame her for having some of those feelings because her family is just not likable. And so I thought that at the beginning there'd be like this heartfelt moment where she was having to like leave her family behind, and it really was just sort of like, all right, I'm peacing out. Also, I wasn't thinking that Tamlin was the love interest in this when I had heard about it. It's what it says on the back. Maybe he's not the actual love interest. Isn't there a character whose name starts with R that everybody keeps talking about? Like Rysand? Rysland? I don't really know. I'm sorry. I know that I probably just totally butchered that name, that character, but I want to say that he becomes a significant part of this story at some point. And I'm not sure if it's in this book or if it's in the next book, but and basically at the part where she's like reached the land of the Fae, and I feel so weird like talking about the Fae and like fairies, and like this is so much more fantasy than I am accustomed to. I'm so unfamiliar with like the concept or even like culture of like the fae and fairies and how they're supposed to sort of be as these like magical beings. It's interesting because in this story, we're told multiple times that fairies can't lie, which I think is so interesting. And like, if that is truly the case, you know, that's going to play into the story, and we're going to have to keep in mind that like none of the characters who are fairies are going to be able to lie. They're not going to ever be able to lie their way out of situations. As far as like being these really cruel creatures, like you would think that they have the ability to manipulate, but that usually means that you have to lie. And if they're incapable of lying, anyway, I just think that that's really interesting, and I'm interested to see how that plays into everything else that's going to happen in this story. I don't really know anything else that's going to happen. Basically, all of what is included in here is what's happened so far. So anyway, I'm excited to continue with this. Again, it's a little slow right now, but I am committed because I've just heard so much about this series and I want to know what all the hype is about, so I'm going to continue with this one. But the other thing that, or couple of things that I've done in the past few days were edit my videos for my mini Polarthon vlog and my reading vlog for like the first week and a half-ish of December. And for both of those vlogs, I just like filmed a whole bunch and then waited to edit it all at once, which you should not do because it is a process. I should just really try better to film and edit as I'm going, but I've noticed some patterns with myself as far as my filming habits or like tendencies when it comes to vlogging. First of all, I think that I am less likely to turn the camera on if I don't feel like I've read a significant amount, like enough to really like give a real update, whereas I know a lot of other booktubers who vlog will still try to vlog daily whether they're reading something or not, which means that a lot of my updates really are about what I'm reading, and therefore I tend to just go on and on and on and on and on about whatever's happening in the book, and I tend to repeat myself a lot, whether I'm repeating the same thoughts in like the same recording, or I will forget what I talked about in the last update and I will end up repeating myself in the next update, and then when I'm editing, I have to cut out all the extra stuff that's either already been said or is like too awkward to include or doesn't make any sense or is just like extra nonsense that like nobody's going to be interested in. But I always seem to talk so much and then I end up with way too much footage and I have to cut it all down and piece it all together. And honestly, a lot of the footage is just like me like staring off into space, like trying to think of the next thing or like how to articulate the next thing that I'm trying to explain. But oh my gosh, I don't know. I wanted to just like talk about that because I'm still trying to figure out this whole vlogging thing. I really do enjoy vlogging because I personally like watching vlogs, and for me vlogs are fun to put together and like create because it's just me getting to talk about books as I read them. But I wanted to throw that out there because if any of you who are watching vlog, let me know please if you experience any of these kinds of challenges, or you know, if there are any tips or tricks that you have for how to vlog or like organize your vlogs or organize your time when it comes to vlogging. I think that I need to try and maybe include a mix of what I'm reading and like other things that I'm doing in my life, although most of the other things that I do are just work and grading and planning and all that stuff that comes with being a teacher and then reading. So anyway, those are my thoughts for the moment. I am actually going to be FaceTiming with my friend Leah to talk about our buddy read that we are currently in, which is The Silent Patient. We said that we would stop at the end of part 2, which means that we are on page 205. We are just about to start part 3. And we left off at a very good point, and I am anxious to get back into this to see what happens. But before that, we're going to actually take the time to talk about our thoughts and probably throw out some theories of what we think happened, because I'm going to do it again. I'm probably going to sit here and try and summarize this book when it's possible that I already summarized this book in my last update, but I don't remember if I did or not. If I didn't, I'll go ahead and summarize it for you here. Basically, the story is about a woman named Alicia who supposedly murdered her husband and afterwards stopped talking to everyone. She went silent. She didn't talk to the police. She didn't talk to her doctors. And it has since been 6 years since that incident. And we have a second perspective from her psychotherapist, who has been really interested in her case and has met with her and is trying to figure out what actually happened and why she stopped talking. And ultimately, the whole like mystery thriller element of this is to figure out what actually happened 6 years ago, whether or not she actually killed her own husband and why she stopped talking afterwards. And in case I already talked about this and summarized it for you, I will just say that I am really, really liking it so far. It's very intriguing. We've definitely hit that point where like I just want to keep reading this to know what happens. So I may or may not have this completely finished by the time I update you next, but once I finish this, I will let you know what my final thoughts are, because I will probably have thoughts. So that is it for now. I don't even really know what time it is right now, but I'm supposed to be chatting with Leah at 6, and I'm going to see if I can make some dinner before then, and I will check in with you guys later. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning, and I am wearing my one Christmas pajama set that I own because today is Christmas pajama day at school, and anytime it's pajama day, I do nothing with my hair / nothing with my makeup because authenticity. Also, I just can't be bothered. So I'm actually up early enough to make myself some real breakfast. So I'm actually working on an egg and cheese sandwich right now. So that's exciting. And I have my cup of coffee this morning in my Christmas mug. So I chatted with Leah last night about The Silent Patient, and that was really fun because we had a lot to say. There are a lot of moving pieces in that book right now. There's lots of different characters, and so we were kind of going through and trying to talk about all the things that are going on and what we think might happen. And we had definitely hit a point where we were both wanting to keep reading. So I have not read anymore. I didn't read any more last night of it, but if I get a chance, I might read more of it tonight. And if we finish it quick enough, we might meet here in the next couple of days to talk about it. Otherwise, I am going to be visiting her and my brother over Christmas. So, and that's next week. Christmas is a week from this Friday. I mean, we really just have like a week and a half. And I still have a little bit of Christmas shopping to do. It was also funny talking to Leah because she had seen in one of my previous videos that I really, really liked The House in the Cerulean Sea, and she was like, oh, you convinced me to read it, but I don't know if she fully knew what it was about because I started to explain it more, and she was just sort of looking at me like, So I don't know if it's going to be one for her, but it's still one that I recommend. So, okay, my egg and cheese sandwich is done. Look at that. So, I'm going to enjoy this, enjoy my coffee, maybe watch some booktube while I do that, and then I'm gonna head to school. About 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, and I have finished reading The Silent Patient, and I also just got off a FaceTime call with Leah so that we could talk about the book, because as we anticipated, we both flew through the ending and decided to just go ahead and call each other and talk about it. We both loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. I do have to say that once again, like the last thriller that I read, which was The Woman in the Window, I did predict this ending, but I was so confident that I hadn't actually predicted the ending. It was just sort of like this. I literally texted Leah before starting the last half of this and was like, oh my gosh, like what if, and like threw out like this theory, and then towards the end of the book, like that theory started to sort of fall into place, and I realized that that's how the story was actually ending, and I was like, oh my god, I actually predicted what happened without even meaning to. But it's a great ending. So good. The first half, or even like the first 2/3 of the book, are this slow burn where we're really learning about these two characters, and there's a lot of build up to a lot that you are trying to figure out, and then by the end everything just like unravels, and there's multiple like plot twists and like things that I didn't see coming, in addition to like the one thing that I saw coming. So obviously by the end of this you find out like what happened with the murder, why Alicia chose to go silent for all the years that she did. You learn more of why Theo, the psychotherapist, is like so invested in her case, and it's all very interesting. It's all very good. This is one that I would definitely recommend. I just thought this was so well done, and there were lots of things happening, and honestly, I would be curious to go back and reread this at some point, because obviously once you learn everything at the end and you're looking back on everything that happened in the first half of the book, there's a lot that is like revealed, and I would be curious to go back now and reread it knowing the things that I know based on the end of the story. I think everything connects really well, and the ending was really satisfying, despite me accidentally predicting like one of, if not the biggest plot twist. But yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed this one. So another book down for me. As far as my other reads go, I'm still reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. I haven't really read any more of this, I don't think. I'm on page 53. So I'm still not very far. Oh, I just saw something that I don't think I should have seen yet. Wow, that was a big moment. Okay, I need to not just like randomly flip through. I think I've been doing that a lot with this, kind of like skimming through, like, is it gonna get better? Because right now it just feels really slow. So I think especially now that I'm done with this one, which was much more intriguing, I'll be able to settle into this one a little more. I won't be meeting with Taylor to talk about our buddy read until sometime next week. So I definitely want to try and get this one read next. And then I might go ahead and start this one, which is Born a Crime, Stories from My South African Childhood by Trevor Noah. And Trevor Noah is a comedian, and he's from South Africa, and this is like his memoir of growing up in South Africa, especially like right towards the end of apartheid. And I just think it's going to be really good, and I'm really looking forward to listening to this one on audiobook because he actually narrates it himself. And I mentioned before that I really enjoy memoirs that are narrated by the actual author because it's just cool to hear them tell their own story. So yeah, these are obviously very different books, but I might try and work my way through these maybe by the end of this week. And then I have my buddy read with Taylor. So yeah, that's my little reading update for now. I did also want to share that for the rest of this evening, before I go to bed, I got at school today a cupcake. Look at this cupcake. This is like a caramel cupcake that we got. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. That we got. The teachers all got cupcakes today as like a special thank you for being awesome kind of Christmas gift from the district. And our superintendent and assistant superintendent came around to each of our classes wearing a Santa suit and like an elf costume and pushing like this cart with all these cupcakes on it, and they gave us all cupcakes. So I think what I'm going to do is enjoy my cupcake. I think I'm going to watch The Great British Baking Show because I'm a little behind on that. I'm not sure if I want to watch like the regular season that's been on because I'm totally behind on that, or I might watch like the most recent holiday one. But I love me some Great British Baking Show. So good. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go to bed, and I will talk to you guys later. Hello, it is Friday evening, which means that I am done with school and we are officially on a winter break for the next 2 weeks, which is so exciting. Thank the Lord. And I'm actually going to head out to my parents' house here in a little bit to help decorate the Christmas tree and hang out and have some dinner with them. So I thought before I do that, I could go ahead and pop in and give you a little update on my reading. It's nothing too significant, but I have made some progress in the 2 books that I said that I would be reading. So A Court of Thorns and Roses has picked up, and I'm currently on page 140, which is in the middle of the chapter, I know, but it's fine. I tend to do that sometimes. Feyre is learning more about Prythian, or however you pronounce that. I'm sorry, I probably said that wrong, but the land of the Fae, and kind of what's going on. There's like a sickness, I guess, and it's affecting the fairies' magic, which I think is interesting. And so that's sort of like becoming one of the major like issues or conflicts in the story that Feyre is trying to like figure out. And the fairies obviously aren't telling her everything, but they are certainly more friendly than she thought, and like she's learning to trust them more. And I'm just becoming a lot more intrigued with everything that's going on. Like, we're learning a lot of new things that are making the story more interesting at this point than it was at the beginning, because at the beginning I thought it was a little slow. But honestly, if I wasn't going out to my parents' house tonight, I would probably be reading this. I might take it out to my parents' house anyway, just in case. And depending on how long I stay out at my parents' house, I may come home and keep reading this, because it's really getting good so far. And it's cute because I took this book to school today, and Lily, sorry, I took this book to school today. I actually took it yesterday as well, because towards the end of this week, like, my kids were already kind of wrapped up with their projects that they were doing for the semester, and we just sort of have had some free time. And so I was reading this a little bit, and I had a couple students actually ask me like, oh, I'm reading that, like, what do you think so far? And they had read it and they had liked it, and so it was kind of cute to talk to them about it a little bit. One of them said that she had already read this one and is currently reading A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the 2nd book in the series. And I told her, I was like, ooh, I heard that book is a lot spicier. I heard it's pretty spicy. And she was like, if you think this one's spicy, the 2nd one definitely is. I haven't really gotten to any spicy parts in this yet. I mean, we're still fairly early on, but I mean, I've already talked about the premise of this book, so like, there's gonna be some spice at some point. I just haven't gotten there yet. And then I also started Born a Crime, Stories from a South African Childhood by Trevor Noah. I've started listening to it on audiobook, but I have found my place in my physical copy of where I'm at in the audiobook, which is page 66, and I'm on part 5. And it's really good so far. It's not as funny as I was anticipating. I thought like, oh, he's a comedian, there's probably going to be quite a bit of humor in this book. And there really hasn't been, to the extent that there obviously is in like his stand-up shows, but there has been some alongside really what has been a lot of serious topics, because he's basically at this point been explaining a lot about his mom's upbringing and then like his very early life, which was in the middle of apartheid. Okay, maybe not the middle of apartheid, but I mean, like, at that point, apartheid was still very much a thing, and his existence was very illegal, and that had a huge impact on how he had to interact with the people around him and how he had to interact with his parents. It's just been really, really interesting to learn about how that system functioned. And so far, I'm really liking the book overall. There is one section that I did find particularly funny that I was like laughing out loud in my car as I was listening to it. And I think it's in section 4 or like part 4. But basically, it's the part of the book where he talks about, it's like the shit story. If you've read this and you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. It was kind of awful, but it was funny and it made me laugh. This isn't a very long book, but I think the audiobook is still about like 8 hours long, and because it's being told by a person that I know, does that make sense? Like, it's not just some random narrator of like a fictional novel. It's like the person actually telling their own story. So I don't want to like speed up the narration, which is something that I usually do. Like, I usually will listen to it on like 1.5 or 1.7 to like get through it a little quicker, especially if I'm reading along as I'm listening to it. But whenever I have this on like in the car or like while I'm doing other things, I just have it at the like regular 1 speed, because I don't want to rush through his telling of the story. I've said that a couple times already. Like, when it comes to memoirs, if I'm listening to them on audiobook, I'm listening to them on audiobook because I want to hear the person actually tell their story. And so I don't want to rush that. So this one is taking me a little longer to get through than it normally would if I were listening to a book on audiobook, but that's okay because I am very much enjoying the experience so far. I'm going to go out to my parents' house and we're going to have some dinner. We're going to decorate the tree, and then I will probably read some more of this tonight. That's the plan. It is Sunday night. I have my makeup done because I'm going to be filming another video here in a little bit, but I'm here now to finish up this vlog and to let you know that I have finished reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, and this book got so good. I know it's been a couple days since I have vlogged, but I do remember one of the last things I said was that this book was actually starting to get good. It was very slow in the beginning, and then things really started to pick up, and they picked up, and I have just like been devouring this over the past couple of days with some of the other things that I've had going on. I was so very pleasantly surprised that I liked this book as much as I do. There was an element of this that I definitely think I should have predicted, considering that this is like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and there was definitely a part that I just like didn't see coming. But there was also a part of this that seemed really obvious to me that could have fixed a lot of their problems from the beginning, but I did already read the like little like teaser of A Court of Mist and Fury that they have in the back of this book, so I do already have a taste of like some of what's going to be happening in the next book, and honestly I'm so excited to continue this series, and part of me wants to go and like get my hands on this book now and like jump into the sequel, but I have other things that I need to read, so I need to be patient and I need to wait until I can continue with this series. This book is obviously very heavy on the fantasy, it's very heavy on the romance, there was a lot of deception. I'm super intrigued at this point to know like how this will continue and where the series will go. Okay, I also just want to take a moment and talk about like some spoilery things. So if you have not read this book, you might want to skip ahead. In fact, I will put like a spoiler warning down here so that you know that I'm talking about some spoilers. So if you are uninterested in hearing specifics about this book, then go ahead and jump ahead in the video, but this is your warning. So the thing that I am most concerned about is that by the end of this book, Feyre does end up with Tamlin, right? Like, that I think was my confusion at the beginning, which if you obviously watched the beginning of this video, I was like, isn't Rhysand a character? And I'm still not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I know that like when it's shortened, it's Rhys, so I'm assuming it's Rhysand. And I was like, isn't he a character? Like, isn't everybody obsessed with him? Like, isn't he like the sexy fairy character from this world, like from this series that everybody keeps talking about? And I thought that he was the love interest. And so when I started reading this, I was like, who is this Tamlin guy? I thought that she ended up with Rhysand. And so now my concern is that, because we do meet Rhysand, and she does end up with Tamlin, but I have concerns that we're going to like find ourselves in some weird love triangle in the next book where like Feyre starts to have feelings for Rhysand and everybody's gonna be Team Rhysand when I am very much Team Tamlin, and I don't want Feyre to mess this up because the whole point of the whole first book is that she would go to the ends of the earth and do anything to protect Tamlin because she loves him. So I don't understand how she would like suddenly have a change of heart and like be into Rhysand, unless I'm wrong and she doesn't end up with Rhysand, even though I feel like that's what I've heard, or something happens to Tamlin where they like aren't together or can't be together. And so she just like ends up with Rhysand because they're obviously developing a little bit of a relationship after her having to spend so much time with him after the deal that they made. So that's the one part of this where I'm like, ugh, really, Feyre? Like, are you gonna mess this up because you've got a really good thing going over here with Tamlin and you're gonna be eyeing Rhysand? Don't mess this up for yourself, girl. Don't mess this up. I don't know. I think there are probably a lot of people who are like more pro Rhysand than Tamlin, but Tamlin's a good guy. He's a sweet guy. I liked their whole little like love story. So I was kind of afraid that he was gonna die at the end. And then I was like, oh, this makes sense. Like, she kills him to like free his people, and then he's gone, so then like she just ends up with Rhysand because Tamlin's not around anymore. But Tamlin survives and they do end up together at the end. So now I'm like, how does Rhysand play into this at all? I am so curious to see what happens with that, because good lord, the only thing that people ever talk about with this series is Rhysand and how sexy he is. And I'm just like, if that's the case, like, do they end up together? But why? Okay, so anyway, overall, really liked this book. Really excited to continue with the series. I'm gonna have to be patient and wait to continue with the next book. But again, like, I'm doing so well this month with all the books that I'm reading. Like, I'm just loving everything that I'm reading. Oh my god, Lily knocked over my camera. Again. Like, this is just, I'm sorry, this is just kind of becoming a regular thing for us, huh? So I think on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end this vlog. Again, thank you guys so much for watching if you have made it to the end of this video. Also, if you have read how many books did I actually read in this vlog? If you have read any of the books that I mentioned in this vlog, please let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. I would love to chat with you. Otherwise, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.